Hello, welcome to this edition of Meet America. I'm Annie Griffin, your host, and we are going to look into animal communicators. How do they talk to animals, and how can we start talking to animals? And when we stop eating them, that line of communication becomes even clearer. So we're going to have to give up some things. Our taste for flesh animals. We're going to have to be strong warriors for this planet, and we're going to have to start caring about what we're doing to this planet individually. It's the only way we're going to save ourselves and the planet. And remember, love is the only thing that will save our world. And that means in every aspect you must ask yourself, is this a loving thing I'm doing? When you go to buy meat, is this really what you want to contribute to? Is this the world you want to create? Or do you want to say, no, I'm going to starve that industry out. I'm not going to give it its my money so that it can continue slaughtering these animals and raising them in these terrible ways. I don't need to eat meat. And when you do that, when you sacrifice that, you get gifts. You get gifts from the Great Spirit, whether you want to call it infinite creation, if you're an atheist, or if you want to call it God, if you're religious, or Allah, or whatever, Jehovah, whatever. You are making that sacrifice, and you are opening up that avenue to your God, to your deity, to the great creator, the great creation itself. So let's take a look at animal communicators and how they're communicating with the animals, and learn how we can do it as well. Thanks for watching.
When I was a little girl, I had a really close connection with my dog and with the trees in my backyard. I remember when I was 5 and my parents were going through divorce and I was getting ready to go to school, and I realized that I was going to have to separate from some of that deep connection with nature and animals. And it made me really sad as a little girl. I have this very strong memory of like, oh, this is gonna hurt growing up. And I feel like all my life I've had this kind of secret agenda of getting people to connect with their deepest selves, of wanting them to feel what's real and be here now in the moment. And animals have always done that for me. I think my business took off because I'm a problem solver. I kind of have the mind of a detective, and I also have the countenance of a therapist. So with the two of those things combined, animals feel a warmth to open up to the deepest levels, and I have a way, a know-how of getting information at the deepest level.
I had searched for my cat for 5 days, and I had searched under every little rock on our 10-acre property, and I had called her name endlessly, and I was really feeling like I'd never see her again. So in my desperation, I decided to take a leap and try an animal communicator.
She was convinced that Little Bear was dead, and she said she really just wanted confirmation.
If this feels wrong, I'm going to ignore it, because I don't want to have false hope, because this cat means the world to me.
Please ground yourself as much as you can. Don't worry, I know this is hard, but if you feel grounded and present, then little Bear will feel you.
So as soon as Sharon got in contact with Little Bear, I could feel that it was really my Little Bear. The things she said no one else could know those things about that cat.
She said she was kind of got wrapped up in chasing after a bird or something, and then by the time she looked up, she's like, oh my gosh, I don't know where I am. And then she just kept going and going, and then got really scared. I can kind of tell if your house is at the center, which quadrant she's in, and it feels northwest, no doubt. I keep getting a number 3, and that feels like a distance, like it's
3 miles.
Yeah, something like that. She may be a little ways from you guys.
Sharon told me that Little Bear had passed a Mexican food restaurant, that she could smell that.
I'm getting like some kind of little Mexican restaurant somewhere along the way that she passed. I could smell, you know, when you drive near a Mexican restaurant, there's a certain kind of smell, flavored spices, etc.
We only have one restaurant in town, and there's no way Sharon could have known that, but the only restaurant we have in town is a Mexican food place. She said, I feel like Little Bear is about half a mile from that Mexican food place, and that she had also passed a big tall palm tree.
The other thing I'm seeing is like a tall tree. Honestly, it looks like a palm tree, like a really tall palm tree.
Sharon told me that she could see a fence, a very specific fence, bars that were arched at the top with this decorative metalwork on the top.
It's like bars with elaborate, and it looks like a curve at the top of the gate. Like a gate or fencing that had this elaborate, kind of Spanish-looking wrought iron work with an arch.
She told me that Little Bear was in a drainage ditch.
She shows me, like, if there's a driveway that goes over a ditch, when they build the driveway, they put a pipe under the driveway. She keeps showing me being down in a space like that.
Once I got there, I just saw Sharon was describing this spot. It felt too good to be true, and I didn't find her. I had to go back because she'd been chased out of the drainage ditch where she'd been hiding. And I finally heard an answer to my call, and then Little Bear came running out of the dark into my arms. And she was exactly half a mile from the Mexican food place, 3 miles from our house, just exactly where Sharon had said.
You know, I got an ecstatic email about 8 hours later that she had actually found Little Bear exactly where I said she was. It's beautiful.
I really did pinch myself, and I was really afraid I was just going to wake up and feel the terror and desperation again, but I didn't wake up, and Little Bear's home.
For me, it feels like such a gift, such a bonus, such an exhilarating feeling to know that I helped this person, and my communication made the difference in this cat's life or death, and this woman's heartbreak.
It had absolutely changed my life and my husband's life. I mean, it showed us that the world is full of this magic that we had thought couldn't possibly be real.
It is beautiful and it's comforting to see other people reawaken in the same way I have. You know, I lost connection with nature and animals, this magical space that I knew when I was 5. And then I found it again. And it seemed so unreal and so amazing. I was incredulous. I mean, my whole family, we're a bunch of intellectuals, PhDs, all that. And so for me to embark on a career as a telepathic animal communicator is quite radical.
I am a career Navy man, and I am very skeptical about all of this. I consider it kind of voodoo, and so it kind of freaks me out, quite frankly. Nobody anticipates Sharon's arrival more than the animal. They start working their way towards the driveway or towards the door. It's always exciting when she pulls in.
She says she's really, really grateful to be here, first of all. She's really, really grateful to be here on this property with April and Michael. She's really happy and grateful for her life. She says she's been given a good job. She says we've had harmony here up until those other goats arrived. Lily and Joey in particular. Tell me more, Pokita. She says that she's not really sure that the world wants to hear, that the camera wants to hear, her story. And she's showing me flashes of things. She's showing me animals being in a corral and tightly squeezed. I'd see actually in a tight container. It feels like a metal box, maybe the back of a truck or something. They think they're gonna die. She says that, like coming here, it's really beautiful. Like in the darkness that she felt in that environment, and just like certain death and maybe even torture before death, just not knowing, where she was going or what she was going to do, what fate was going to befall her, and then, ending up here is like amazing. It's like it's such a gift, and she wants to give back. The gratitude that she has is so much that she wants to give back by teaching the others that come here about love. But the goats, while they're being who they are, the fact that they're not rescues, they don't understand this love. They don't understand what this home is really about. Well, she wants to talk about help from you with Lily. Joey's getting better. She says he's growing up. She says that Lily's not changing. Pokita's telling me that there are coyotes around, there are snakes around, and she tells them where they are. She knows, she can sense where the coyotes and the snakes are. And Lily the goat, she doesn't listen to me, she doesn't obey me. She just goes and she sniffs the wind, and she's kind of in her own world, Lily the goat. She says that if we don't act smart, the coyotes might think that one of us is easy pickings. She says, I'm wise. I know my way around out there.
And you're a very good protector.
She is.
The other night, since we were living here, this is the first time this has happened, but it was like 9 o'clock at night and our bathroom's right there. And the only time she ever brays is when something's wrong. And I hear her lay out a bray. And I mean, I came flying out the door, and she has everybody pushed this way, and she's running the fence line. There's an entire pack of coyotes just running back and forth.
Oh my God.
And she's pushing everybody, as she does. She pushes everybody this way.
Yeah.
But she kept running back and forth, and and she's braying, and I'm just like, the only time she ever brays is if something's off.
Yeah.
She did a good job. She always does a good job.
So Joey here, he's showing me that he wants to be something of a mediator. He loves his sister, and he's learning to respect Pokita. He understands Pokita. He says, she's not very, very smart, my sister. She's not very wise. She doesn't know when to listen. She doesn't know what's really dangerous. It's a good thing she's protected or safe here. I want to try to help bring the two of them together. Pokita wants a reassurance that you're not going to forget what she said.
Got it.
Lily says that she's willing to learn, she's willing to try. She says that she's touched by her brother Joey. She's touched by Joey's love for her and Joey's willingness to teach her, to kind of bring her along. I can feel there's starting to be a sense of peace between Pokita and Lily.
That's pretty cool. It's always neat to hear, what they have to say and understanding it from their viewpoint. And it's intriguing that she's that upset about Lily the goat. But I can see her point. I mean, they're not rescues. They're the funny ones. They do get in the way. Everything Sharon was saying was totally true.
Sharon had to make me a believer just by being around her and seeing the results of what she can do. And, now I have a deep respect for her and what she does, where before I thought it was just all hokey. I have a different relationship with my animals today because of her. I actually think of them as, thinking, feeling, caring beings rather than just an animal.
It's so healing for people to have that experience, to know what their animal's feeling, to know that they can feel what their animal's feeling with clarity, and to reconnect to this part of themselves.
I don't know how I came across Sharon. I think it's a divine stroke of luck. I was surfing the internet, and I swear I saw a pop-up talking about Sharon, an animal communicator. Gypsy, my dog, was living her last few years. We started talking to Sharon when she was around 13. Sharon said, "Gypsy, I don't know, Diana, this might sound really, really funny to you, or it might just sound completely off, but I keep seeing a red dog bed." And I just had bought Gypsy her first red dog bed 2 days back, which she loved. And Sharon said, "She says she loves it." And I was, what? Did she really see that? How did she know that? But I think that was the minute that I had full faith in animal communication, in telepathy. Every little doubt, they all vanished.
Her body is in some type of slow transition of preparing to go.
Gypsy told Sharon that there's a lot I want to tell Dana before I go. So Sharon said, "Dana, she's got a lot to tell you. Are you ready to listen?" I said, "Yeah, I am. Go for it." And she started telling me about how I work with a person or in an industry where things are demanded regularly and people are whimsical. It's going to get to me. And at that point, I was fine with the job I was doing. I loved the job I was doing.
Animals are these silent witnesses to our lives, day in and day out, and we think, oh, well, they're just simple beings. They're not really paying attention or understanding what I'm going through, but they do know.
She shows me that you have some kind of work in the world that's different from what you're doing now. Like there's a transition from it, and I actually feel like, maybe it's down the road a bit, maybe a year or so off, or maybe a year, 18 months, something like that.
And when I look back at that conversation, I can't tell you how true it is. It was exactly what happened. Exactly, to the T. I worked with a person who I loved working with, but the job was demanding, and it was stressful, and it was tiring, and I did stop working with that person at a certain point, and it was exactly for the reasons Gypsy mentioned to Sharon.
It was time. There's something about a divine timing to her passing, and it has to do with you and your growth.
Gypsy mentioned, you may go through the dark night of the soul, and I'm not going to be there when you go through that. And now, she's gone, she's not there, and I experienced that this entire last year. And I listened to that conversation on record, and I'm just like, how did she know that, How did she know that? And how did Sharon pick it up so beautifully from her? Just the beauty of telepathy intrigued my mom and me. And we asked Sharon if she would ever consider coming to India to teach. And she replied, yeah.
People often think, oh, you're just tuning in and you're getting things. Like, no, I am having a feeling, telepathic conversation with that being, and they feel it, and then they respond back to me. This is a two-way conversation.
We were all surprised that instead of doing one batch as planned, we ended up actually doing 3 batches of weekend courses
Our spirits bloom when we're with animals. They connect us to the best parts of ourselves.
Everybody didn't believe that they could do it. They believed Sharon did it. They believed it existed, but they didn't believe they could do it. And everybody, towards the end of the day, had multiple successes in their own ability of actually executing telepathy. Sharon's India trip didn't change me. Sharon changed me. Knowing Sharon and understanding so much more changed me. If people could start understanding what animals mean or say or feel, it would change consciousness.
Now, Anna Breitenbach is a professional animal communicator trained through the Assisi International Animal Institute in California and has been practicing over a decade in South Africa, Europe, and the USA. Her conversation experience includes working with various wild animals in educational and rehabilitational programs. Anna's goal is to raise awareness and advance the relationships among humans and other species. She's also the subject of the documentary movie, The Animal Communicator, that was released worldwide. Welcome to The Laughter, Anna.
Thank you, Bonnie.
So what does an animal communicator do? What is it?
It's essentially referred to as a human who acts as a translator between other species and, again, humans. So translating what animals are thinking and feeling and what their perspectives are, translating it back into human language in a way that I can give voice to what those other species are trying to tell us on a small and a large scale.
And practically, how does the process actually work?
It's actually a very still and quiet process, and it's independent of things like facial expression or body language, although those are obviously very valid forms of expression. But what it looks like when communicating might seem to be rather boring from the outside. It simply involves sitting quietly and trying to clear my human mind as much as possible, and simply using my intention and connecting with the animal or that I want to know more about. And I can just imagine the question and then sit quietly with myself and wait for answers or impressions to come across my mental landscape inwardly. Or I could be, if I'm wanting to convey some information to an animal, I will actually generate mental images to give them very specific suggestions. For example, in the typical obedience sense, one could literally close one's eyes and have a mental image of the dog sitting. And hopefully, if they agree, they would actually do that.
Wow.
It's independent of vocal commands.
I mean, it's clearly an extraordinary gift. And when did you know and how did you know you had this gift?
Well, ironically, it's something that we all can do. It's something that is in the very nature of the way that our brains are designed. And all our human ancestors used to do this every day as a matter of course. We modern humans tend to get educated out of it or become too busy with daily life to pay attention to intuition. It's intuitive communication.
Right, yeah.
So rediscovering it has been a journey of remembering and relearning something that's actually innate. And in my case, it happens to be perhaps a particular match for my passion, which is wildlife and conservation. And because I do it so much, perhaps my muscle is sort of more developed at it. But I'm really no different. I didn't have a privileged childhood running around in the wilds or have lions as pets or anything unusual. Very ordinary suburban upbringing. And this came about when I was doing my tracking training whilst living in the States and coming across footprints of North American species that I knew nothing about at all, having grown up here. And when my brain completely failed to figure out what animal might have made those tracks, my intuition stepped in and began to give me brief snippets of information or a mental image of a dog-like face that would turn out to be a coyote, and that was a coyote's tracks. So I began to switch on then. Of course, I thought I was going entirely mad and needed a head doctor.
As anyone would.
Absolutely. But I researched this entire field and discovered telepathic communication and then decided to study it with my annual leave days from my day job at the time.
Wow. And how can humans and animals benefit from being able to communicate better and clearly?
Well, mutual understanding is the primary benefit. It also stops us humans having to try to figure out what they're thinking or feeling. It's incredibly helpful in medical and veterinary situations where the vet is really struggling to diagnose and is perhaps frustrated thinking, oh, if only the animal could talk. Well, they can, through a whisperer. They can actually show how they're thinking and feeling and what their choices are around treatment. Of course, the animals can benefit greatly too, because when we humans understand what their needs really are, or what the reasons are for their behavior, we know what we're working with. We don't have to just observe behavior and then make some decisions. We can just go straight to the horse's mouth and say, what's making you do this? It's very useful in rehabilitation scenarios, or with even large animals like elephants, or those who are having to deal with humans, hopefully in a temporary capacity, and being safe and being well cared for, when the human caretakers can hear directly from them what their needs are.
Oh, that's extraordinary. And in the stories that you've come across and experiences that you've had, you've just shared that animals can benefit greatly from this communication. Any stories that stand out for you that have always just moved you deeply?
Well, in several rehabilitation scenarios, it's been wonderful to really help have an animal's life be saved, because they can convey something that is not detectable by medicine, perhaps. One of the things that really amuses me, though, is when I get funny perspectives on humans from the animals. And I was communicating with a troop of baboons who were raiding vegetable gardens and were facing being shot at and all sorts of horrible things if they dared take any more veggies. This was at a retreat centre.
Right.
So when I explained to the baboons that the humans needed the vegetables to cook for all of the guests, the baboons
couldn't have them.
They couldn't have them, or at least not as much as they were taking. The baboons' response was essentially, no, the humans don't need that food. And I said, yes, they do. And the baboons said, no, they don't. And I asked the baboons why they thought the humans didn't need it. And the baboons revealed to me that they watched from the mountainside, they watched the humans, the cooks and the chefs at this place, go into the gardens when they weren't hungry. So the humans go in when they're not hungry, they pick all the best and the most ripe fruit and vegetables, and then they don't even eat it. They take it away out of the garden and go lock it away in buildings. And sometimes the humans leave the food lying around until it's days old and becomes too rotten and not able to be eaten by baboon or humans. And the baboons thought that was rather wasteful. Very good reflection on what humans are up to.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow, geez, I could talk to you all afternoon, but you're not going away. You're still in the laughter.
Absolutely.
Thank you. After the break, we chat to the 8-year-old boy who raised 10,000 Rand for a baby rhino, and we take a look at the Domestic Animal Rescue Group.
So, my friends, it's time for Americans to warrior up and just stop being such babies about, oh, I gotta have my pizza with my pepperoni, and all you feel sorry for is that you can't have cheese and that you can't have meat. You're not thinking, you're not feeling, and you're disconnected, and you all are just agreeing that the world is just gotta go. And it's amazing how many people that I speak with seem to be agreeing that humans have failed in our mission to be better folks, and now we're just going to extinct ourselves and everything else with it. It doesn't have to happen. But like warriors who had to fight in World War II against Hitler, we are going to have to fight against ourselves and our appetites to save this world and our children. And I don't know why any of you are having children out there if you're not doing some serious regression on what you're eating. So please do your part to save this planet, to save the animals, to learn how to communicate with the animals and nature, and become better people. Because it's already too late. Thanks for watching.